915-544-5876. Or comment online on our stream at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. It's 4 p.m. Mountain Time, and that means it's time to talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in on all those different ways because, and we keep mentioning, because it's a good way that you can know what we're doing on the show, keep up on it, make sure you hear what we got going on. So wherever you're in and it's working for you, that's the right place for you to be as we continue our twin missions to A, have live local talk radio here in the borderland, and B, talk about the things that affect us here, because I still contend no one else is going to do that like we do. Just a lot of people trying to tell us how we should feel, those kind of things. James Holmes, hope y'all are staying grounded out there. Or James Holmes providing a windy greetings. I swear, came in here like mid-morning dealing with some stuff here, preparing some interviews, things like that. And I left a little bit later, went out, head back home, grabbed something, and I came back, and I could have sworn I was on a different planet all of a sudden. The way everything was so dusty and blustery, and yeah, we definitely still in that time of the season, I gotta say. Anyway, if y'all are staying grounded or nailed down out there, anyway, I hope you all can tune in. It's not affecting too many atmospheric conditions, and we got a lot to talk about here today. I mean, as much as there has been recent, and even some of the discussions we had yesterday involving, like, say, the State of the Union on border patrol, immigration, border security, etc. Another example of the continuing pressure we're seeing, particularly in our region, as our news partners over at KFOX 14 able to get the images and videos of hundreds showing up at one particular gate on the border and the border fence late last night into early this morning. So yeah, that pressure is still definitely going on, as there are other efforts also going on, including migrant relief foundations going on in our area here. But then also got a lot going on when it comes to the state legislative sessions. We've got committee assignments coming out, some interesting updates on that ever since the kind of kerfuffle that's been going on within the Texas legislature involving how committees are assigned, both those details and that kind of a couple big questions, really, is the way I've been thinking about it, including what exactly might be going on when it comes to, well, funding for schools, and really those formulas, a whole lot of details going on there, but then also some other major things, including like marijuana, how that might work, and other things. So yeah, there's a lot at the state level we'll be talking about there on today. We also have Austin Redfern chiming in over on the social media. Hey Andrew, hey everybody, hey to you as well. And at least one interview, we have a short preview for our actually that weekend public affairs show that we have, the El Paso Public Forum, on another subject we've definitely been discussing lately. Also have Robbie Flores over there. Hello everyone, and hello to you as well, on a very personal take on the fentanyl crisis and the opioids, all overdosing, all of these issues, and how at least a local group is trying to both educate and make a difference when it comes to that, offering support and more, and trying to get more things going. So at least a little bit of mention of that, and a preview of what the in-depth interview we have coming up for you this weekend is. So a lot going on in and around here, just to show that it's not all doom and gloom from our news partners over there at KFOX 14. If you were wondering for a little bit of stress relief this right, holiday season feels wrong. Valentine's is coming up, and for those of you who didn't know that, you either not in a relationship or you're welcome. And so, of course, the El Paso Zoo is doing the Quit Bugging Me Valentine's Day promotion, where you can name a Madagascar hissing cockroach. Just lovely name, isn't it? You can name it after someone, or quote unquote in honor of someone, and it will then be fed to the zoo's meerkats. So that's a fun one. But that's just one thing I want to mention, as we are often talking about local events. But there's also plenty of serious stuff to get into here today, including, again, the article titled from our news partners there at KFOX 14, over 500 migrants at U.S.-Mexico border in El Paso's Lower Valley. And one of the significant things about this is that there is they have had their camera crews out there getting some of the images and some of the videos. I have occasionally been driving along the border highway and seen small groups, and it wasn't necessarily 500 at once, but it was over a period of time here. They're specifically the actual gate. So we're talking about, of course, not one of the ports of entry, but one of the crossings over the canal, basically, that has a lot of fencing and infrastructure around it, specifically noted as being near Yarborough, near the Cesar Chavez border highway. So yeah, if you've driven down that area, you might have an idea. Also, a lot of people responding to the whole hissing cockroach thing. They do it every year, and that's why I wanted to start on a lighter note here, as we got a lot of those serious things to mention. So that this group assemblage happened, and primarily from Venezuela, according to El Paso Sector Border Patrol Chief Peter Jaquez, I think, if I'm saying that one right, and saying that it's one of over a span of a few hours between 8:30 p.m. and 12:30 a.m. And again, the KFOX 14 crews were able to see the large assemblage over there. Again, a lot of cockroach response there from the what was going on in the zoo coming up later, and a lot of visceral response there. But again, on the situation with the people arriving at the border, they got authorities getting to the scene around 3 a.m. This morning. And so I took this not as a, man, look at this one incident. And I mean, there are a lot of pictures that you can see, again, from the news story from our news partners there. Again, the title of it, over 500 migrants at U.S.-Mexico border in El Paso's Lower Valley. But as a example of the issue that I feel like we keep circling around, even with the national and even state level discussions, that without dealing with kind of all of the parts of this problem, I don't see this ceasing. Or if anything, I know that there's at least some of the things, being a Patriot chick asking specifically, is the National Guard working that area? To my understanding, no, but actually some of the images involved there from our news partners at KFOX 14 do show Texas DPS state troopers out there. So there's varying levels of enforcement here. I'll be honest with you, and most of the enforcement that I have personally been seeing in our area, either from the coverage or that I happen to have been like driving by, particularly along that area, it seems like for the state level efforts, DPS has been primarily doing that. I'm honestly not too sure what the status of National Guard is there anymore, but like some of these recent Stash House busts even have been primarily, or at least involving, Texas DPS, so state troopers. So that's the part it seems to be the most of it. But the kind of case in point I'm trying to make here as we start there is that this is the kind of thing that we, well, have been seeing. I'm not going to call it the normal, because there isn't really anything normal, just shifting kind of norms at that point in time. But there's no like long-term trends that really say like, oh yeah, that this is just what it is and it's been this way for a long time. I don't really feel like that applies anymore. Change has been the only constant. And so this, of course, was a thing that we had been able to see, particularly in the lead up to, well, frankly, the pandemic, because this was, I mean, I've seen small groups myself here, but then of course we had in the end of last year, the major amounts that we were seeing. And you can still see some of those recent historic data over from, always guide people towards the El Paso, Texas.gov/migrant-crisis and their migrant situational awareness dashboard, showing that we are still at lower levels than that kind of high water mark that we hit in the last weeks of the year with 10,000 migrant releases in our area. For last week, we were at about 1,500. And so far, for the full complete days of this week, it looks like we're at about 407, specifically looking at the numbers being released by the city of El Paso there, showing that there is an uptick in custody amounts, though encounters might be ticking down. So a few things could contribute to that, including potentially transportation from other areas, though we've been primarily seeing people transported from this area as opposed to in recent days and weeks. In any case, as the situation continues to move, and again, a lot of the people showing up in this specific incidents, they were expelled back again because they were from Venezuela, and again, the local border patrol chief said actually that Title 42 has authority under that is still in place. There were other nationalities represented, apparently, including Nicaragua, Colombia, Guatemala, Ecuador, Peru, and El Salvador, but I got to say this, that without more focus on these, again, both sides of the issue, because I know there's a lot of people out there saying like, all right, well, just beef up security, just, build the wall higher, put other technology in place. I'm still going to disagree with anyone calling for armed response to that there, because no, thank you. And I don't think that war crimes are going to be something we want to add into this, but also that if you're not dealing with the pressure on it, obviously this pressure exists. It is undeniable that there is, still estimates in the thousands, if not tens of thousands, waiting, along various parts of the border, if not even just within, say, Ciudad Juarez itself. We saw, of course, the camps and encampments, some broken up, most of them just moved away from the border proper and into other parts, other shelters, other facilities, sometimes, not always. That still exists. That is not going away. And to call people dissuaded by, well, you get a big enough wall, make it look scary enough, those kind of things, that's when we keep seeing the other side of this, which is now, as opposed to seeking to present themselves to authorities, as ostensibly these people were, they're now going with the smuggling routes. And that's why I feel like we keep seeing, and it's hard to put on an increase or not. It's definitely more than previous years, maybe not over 2022, but like before pandemic years, of the incidences of those, stash houses, of the small vehicle smuggling. And that's only of the ones that, of course, get encountered or get caught. So what I'm really trying to get at here is that if we're not really dealing with this issue in its entirety, including addressing what is on the southern side of the border, if we're just talking about, just take the problem, push it over there, not our problem anymore, deal done, wipe hands, clear of it, that is just not reasonable. And I'm not even talking about this in you have to care about it. I'm saying that is not solving the problem or even removing it from the streets in the way that we have been seeing it. Because if you're, again, that pressure, what happens if, you put your finger over a corked bottle, you might be able to hold it over for a while, but if you're then shaking it and the pressure is still building, it's going to pop and it's going to spray everywhere. So, okay, more of a kind of physical and physics analogy there, but point is that the pressure is going to be dealt with one way or the other. And if other methods like this are no longer available, but the pressure still hasn't been addressed, well, okay, better example might be with an actual pressure cooker, that if you don't have a release valve on there somewhere, somehow, and you keep ramping up the pressure and the temperature, something's going to pop, and it may be very much less controllable in that way. So that's why I think we keep seeing these increases of smuggling and other illicit attempts, including just straight crossings and attempts to actually go over the fence as opposed to approaching it. So, yeah, I think that at the very least, I know that there's a lot of people who have thoughts about the State of the Union, but if there's one thing that I would think could be done, potentially, maybe even within this Congress, the idea of providing, at the very least, more staffing, resources, technology, support, etc., that would be a good one, at the very least, to start there anyway. Enrique Reyes mentioning some of the stats on it about how watched it was. I haven't actually seen those myself here, so maybe I'll take a look at it as we get into that first break of this hour right now. So we're, of course, tuned in to Talk El Paso, airing live here on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. Coming out of this break, more talk about the other things affecting us here, including at least one fundraising efforts kind of related to what we were talking about there, more on the release side of it, and then also the Texas legislature. A lot of events happening there this week, but stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Oh, also the giveaway, all that and more.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
A couple of accidents on the Gateway East at Lee Trevino, an accident involving two vehicles blocking the left lane. Gateway West at Yarborough, an injury accident with El Paso Fire responding. Westbound on the I-10, 10-minute delays with stop-and-go traffic, McRae to the Patriot, and I-10 eastbound is slowing down from Dallas to Trowbridge, 5-minute delays. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
Winning $1,000 incites all kinds of emotions.
Are you kidding? No way.
What to do with it is up to you.
We're going to Key West, that's it. What are you, nuts? We're going to Atlantic City.
Listen for your chance to win $1,000 with inflation compensation.
Listen for your chance to win $1,000 every hour from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Enter the nationwide keyword at ktsmradio.com for your chance to win. Brought to you by Sunland Park, Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, where buying a car is fun.
This report is sponsored by the Truth with Lisa Booth podcast.
The state of California is out with a new law trying to muzzle any doctor who questions the COVID consensus. So what does that mean for medicine moving forward? We'll talk to one man who's suing the state. Listen to The Truth with Lisa Booth every Monday and Thursday, but you can listen throughout the week on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along, which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ziprecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. It finds them for you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ziprecruiter.com/radio. That's ziprecruiter.com/radio. ziprecruiter.com/radio.
The hit true crime podcast Paper Ghosts is back with a brand new case. Season 3 digs deep into the 1992 cold case murder of Tammy Jo Zawicki, a New Jersey college student, and uncovers a murky police investigation, a pool of new suspects, and a community still desperate for answers 30 years later.
Tammy's supposed to be on campus, and she's not here, and people are starting to get worried.
Listen to Paper Ghosts on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
It's Jesse Kelly here. I can't afford to lose 30% of my 401k or IRA again, and I'm assuming you can't either. Call Oxford Gold. Securing your IRA or 401k with real gold and silver is a portfolio protection plan, and Oxford Gold has made it easy as 1, 2, 3. One app, one call, and you pick your precious metals. That's it. You now own precious metals. Call Oxford Gold today to learn more about the 1, 2, 3 protection plan. 833-404-GOLD, 833-404-GOLD.
With an open channel,
I guess just try to keep channels open.
We welcome open-minded individuals.
I try to keep an open mind to all issues.
With open arms.
I think we need to always have our eyes open.
For open conversation. And when you open the iHeartRadio app, you open a whole new world. Wherever you are.
What should America do about immigration crisis?
I guess open the borders, but at the same time, check everyone that's coming in.
Open the gates.
A free download in the App Store or at ktsmradio.com. The most current and comprehensive. Just minutes away at the top and bottom of the hour. And always online at ktsmradio.com. Most of the time, traffic is pretty good. But there are times when traffic can be pretty bad. No, I mean like really bad. Almost, but more like an asteroid's gonna hit the city and everyone's trying to get out of town at once and nobody's car is moving and people are running down the highway clutching their kids and whatever belongings they can grab. Yep, now you got it. It's times like these you need your severe traffic station. Traffic and weather all day. Stay informed with El Paso's News Radio, 690 KTSM. News on the hour and a half. Traffic and weather all day. Keeping you informed and up to date. El Paso's News Radio, 690 KTSM. News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app for, again, a lot of different ways, iHeartRadio app. And if you haven't downloaded that already, it's pretty simple. Just get it on your phone, your app store or Play Store of choice, all the different names out there now. And then, of course, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, more or less our main page. It's the one we've had the longest anyway. In any case, if you want to add your comments over there, people doing so, such as Rick Reyes, Monica Cervantes, John Hertz, Robbie Flores, Austin Redford, James Holmes, also dropping those likes and reacts, including Flaco Jimenez, to appreciate. And then also over on the YouTube, including a Patriot Chick, after I mentioned the whole quit bugging me thing for the El Paso Zoo, saying that someone in their life, Chloe, singing the Cucaracha song. I can make no claim to that. I mean, it was an event that was going to be happening. I think our news partners will be talking a little bit further about that anyway. So And at least one comment coming in saying that there's plenty of cockroaches running the city, so why do we need to import them? I think it's about the diet of the meerkats going into this here. You don't just want to feed them any old vermin off the streets, considering you may have no idea what's actually in it. So these are like rays. Some people eat them. I am not one of those people. I've done chapulines, but that's been the far enough part for me. Anyway, and including Monica Cervantes reacting to that, saying no stinking cockroaches. Again, just maybe don't go to the zoo on, I think it'll be February. It would make sense for it to be Valentine's Day, but it might not be. It doesn't have to be a former loved one either. It could be anyone in your life that is annoying you, the whole quit bugging me thing. Anyway, just a funny-ish story that I feel the need to mention here. And in terms of other fundraisers, actually kind of related to the whole border security immigration situation, there's actually, as part of the rivalry, NMSU, UNM, and UTEP are teaming up to raise money for migrants relief. So the Aggies, Lobos, and Miners, specifically as the team, partnering with the Community Foundation of Southern New Mexico to raise money for the migrant crisis that is continuing on the southern border. Project named Rivals for Relief, goal to raise $30,000 in a 2-week period to support families, students, and individuals seeking asylum. So that's part of that. And a full interview with our news partners over there at KFOX 14 if you want to see it. On the law enforcement side, another quick note I wanted to mention here is that El Paso Police Department has actually gotten now more than 700 body-worn cameras, which is just an interesting accountability note here. I know that there have been previous kind of rollouts of it regionally, so seeing another level of that is just something I wanted to make sure to mention there. And another question coming in, Ed Clore asking, what name can we give the zoo for a meerkat meal? Any name you want. Might be of an individual if you really want to. Again, anyone who has been bugging you. So that's the fundraiser that is now kicking off. Go to elpasozoo.org. And you can find it, look for the quit bugging me stuff here. And yeah, on February 14th, the list of all names received will be published. And according to the El Paso Zoo director, Joe Montesano, insects are actually the perfect protein, have been consumed by humans since the beginning of time, and they are a special treat for our animal friends. The fact that you can assign the name of an ex, a boss, or really anyone or anything that is bugging you is just a cathartic release. So, yep, elpasozoo.com, and you can make your donation, and then the list will be published, and you can definitely, if you want to experience it yourself, I'm sure you can go out there when they do it. So, as I keep mentioning about some of the state-level efforts specifically, and for anyone trying to call in right now, we will have the phone lines open a little bit later in the show, as we usually do. But in the meantime, do have a couple of pending, interesting items, including what we had talked about actually in previous weeks. I mean, there wasn't a whole lot that happened in the Texas legislature last week because they were kind of iced in. But when it comes to this week, flurry of activity, including committee assignments coming out. Some of our notable and previous guests on the program during I guess it was last year at this point, from the local state delegation, talking to us about what they are actually going to be putting forth, and now committee assignments coming out. It's an interesting note here that actually, where is it? That of the 34 standing committees, House Speaker Dade Phelan has selected Democrats to chair 8 of them, and I do believe that maybe not totally, but at least a subcommittee kind of includes one of the local representatives, specifically. Okay, it is the main committee. Again, Joe Moody, state representative from El Paso, has been appointed a chair of the House Committee on Criminal Jurisprudence. Saying that he spent, quote, the last decade and a half working on criminal justice policy. So it's a section of law I'm passionate about, end quote. So that's just part of it. Again, so a lot of other releases coming out from our local delegation. But at least one of them, at least on the Senate side of it, both article title from the Texas Tribune here, Texas senators seem open to major change in state's public education funding formula. Now, again, we talked about this last week as a possibility. It had been floated, so it being more received is an interesting move here. So the background on this is that as opposed to it being based solely on attendance, butts in seats, so to speak, where it comes to how much money is actually therefore given to a school district. I mean, there is, of course, different things about, what the tax base is, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, it's just not a coincidence that areas that have higher tax bases seem to have nicer schools. But they're actually making it so that it's not solely attendance-based, but rather enrollment-based. So it's still reflective in a way of who is or could be going to school anyway, but not actually based on like the daily averages, or not even averages. I think it is absolute numbers. If you ever wondered why, at least I did back in the school days, why they were beyond the whole, okay, is someone not here? Do we need to get them homework kind of thing? Why they had to have this, it was quite the process around those Scantron attendance sheets. I gotta say, it was did a courtesy period once where it was like a class, but not a class back in high school. And I did at least some of the collection of those, and he had to take them straight to the office. And it was like not quite feeling like you're an armored car delivery driver, but maybe closer to it, because there was a lot of seriousness put onto these. And so understanding this later in life was, illuminating to me. So the fact that this could be changed and making it, it would be more millions in funding given to them here, since it's not about who is actually there, but rather the potential of who could actually be in school. And some of the questions coming up for Texas Education Agency Commissioner Mike Morath on this idea is what actually makes it more usable. Specifically, Morath said an enrollment-based financial system is much more discernible. It's predictable, a little bit more budget stability from an enrollment perspective than you do on an average daily attendance basis. That, according to the quote from the Texas Tribune there. And the real question that I have about that is, how would it potentially affect, not that there's a whole lot of leeway in this state anyway for things like virtual learning, but it would make it maybe more possible. There is also questions about, say, truancy laws, and if those might be getting lax. If you ever wonder what constables do outside of the random times you may see them driving around, truancy is actually a big part of that. Not their only one. Not trying to throw shade at them, that's just saying that they are tardy cops, but that is a major part of it, along with justice of the peace stuff in general. And the fact that people can still get these kind of notices about truancy, so that's maybe the sticking point that would be coming out of there. Anyway, one other thing that I want to mention that has been at least floated within this whole state legislative session would be, state sports betting, which is another whole kettle of fish that maybe we'll get into that in another show here, with particularly the Texas Sports Betting Alliance making a big push within this, and specifically a legislation that was put forth on Monday, legalizing online sports betting. The whole sports betting revolution is not something we've really talked about on this program, but something I've been paying attention to and going on in the background. I don't really do it myself because apparently I couldn't pick a horse to save my life, but the idea of it, and sports betting as well, is quite popular. You may have noticed in other advertising the kind of explosion of it that has happened after some recent other national legislation that was passed. So yeah, that's another one that we're keeping our eye on. But also, though Texas is not a legalized marijuana state, of course, we've made some examples and differences between Texas and New Mexico when it comes to that whole issue. And I'm still not going to be surprised if I see that side door pot store pop up one day. But there actually is some essentially compassionate use programs that are available within the state of Texas. And really those Delta 8 products, if you've driven around any of the main drags in the region recently, you've probably seen at least a store or two that has popped up and is hawking that. Delta 8 is it's not an analog. It is technically derived from hemp, but is not the it's not the THC. It's not the most regulated part of it. And so there has been more availability of that. Honestly, it's kind of a walks like a duck, quacks like a duck thing to me. Again, don't imbibe myself, but having had someone who bought some Delta 8 cigarettes, quote unquote, I'll be damned if it didn't smell exactly like some dank, just saying. Anyway, there's more potential movement on that, saying that there's been laxity and that this was not intended to be used that way or to be going onto the broader market here in Texas. But there's actually a push from at least some veterans group to actually say that they want to keep it more or less as it is, that it's a better for expansion of the compassionate use programs that have been existing in some ways. So those are other fights and some other smaller things. We'll see a lot more of these kind of things moving through this session. These are kind of the trickles that are coming out already, but committee assignments, more action happening with those. This will probably start happening a little bit faster as we get further into it And y'all just stuck on these cockroaches thing, at least to the commenters over online, and including a Patriot chick saying, well, so cockroaches will not eat margarine by a fumigation expert. And Rick Reyes asking me specifically, have I ever had deep-fried cockroaches? I cannot say I've had it. Closest that I can even say I've gotten to would be chapulines, but they weren't deep-fried. They were kind of like salt water boiled. Like they were kind of crunchy and kind of soggy at the same time. Weird experience, I got to tell you. Here we had a whole damn bag of them that I don't think we ended up consuming all of those because that got kind of old pretty quick, at least for us anyway. But the whole idea of margarine and not being eaten by vermin, I've heard similar-ish things, mostly in experiments with like ants, that they definitely prefer, well, real butter over margarine, but haven't done that particular experiment myself here. Let's go ahead and take that next break right now. Coming out of this break, we've got a quick, at least preview interview for you, and we'll talk a little bit further about that next trivia question and giveaway that's posted here. Should be up shortly, if not already, over on our social media. So in any case, stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break. You are tuned into our live broadcast every Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m. You get phone lines a little bit later, as well as more comments coming in. So stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Hello, I'm Erica Castillo with this KFOX 14 News Update. More than 500 migrants showed up at the border gate near Yarborough and the border highway. The group, which is mostly from Venezuela, tried to enter El Paso illegally yesterday and today, according to the El Paso Border Patrol chief. Authorities arrived at the scene at about 3 in the morning today. Border Patrol reports the encounters occurred in the span of a few hours between 8:30 last night and 12:30 in the morning. Bed Bath & Beyond is closing some of its stores in El Paso and Las Cruces. Bed Bath & Beyond stores on George Dieter in East El Paso and the store on Lowman in Las Cruces will be closing. The retailer announced this week it'll be shutting down 150 locations nationwide. And the city of El Paso's zoo is ready to take those names for its annual Quit Bugging Me Valentine's Day promotion, where people can name a Madagascar hissing cockroach after a former paramour, a boss, mother-in-law, or someone who's just been bugging you. From now until Valentine's Day, anyone can submit a name online. The cockroaches will then be fed to meerkats for everyone's viewing satisfaction. I'm Erica Castillo with this KFOX 14 News Update.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
Gateway East at Lee Trevino, an accident involving two vehicles blocking two left lanes. El Paso fires there. It's not a good place to be. Gateway West at Yarborough, another injury accident there. On I-10 westbound between McRae and the Patriot, it's a 9-minute delay, all bumper to bumper. And I-10 eastbound is slow from Dallas to Trowbridge with 7-minute delays. Carrie Edward, El Paso traffic.
From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Brad Montgomery. The front that is giving us the gusty conditions is going to bring in some colder air for tonight and tomorrow morning. Lows down into the teens and 20s. Definitely want that coat, jacket, maybe some gloves for your Friday morning. For your Friday, still on the cool side. Still want the coat and jacket during the day with a high around 50 degrees. Milder conditions returning for your Saturday with a high around 60. From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Brad Montgomery.
This report is sponsored by General Dynamics Information Technology.
Are you fluent in English and Spanish? Make an impact helping others while supporting our government. GDIT is hiring bilingual customer service representatives in El Paso. Full and part-time opportunities available. Apply now at gdit.com/El Paso.
Let's face it, credit cards are pretty much a necessity.
New tires for the car? Oh, here's my card.
I order takeout, here's my card. And most of us just accept the high interest rates credit cards charge as a necessary evil.
What are you going to do?
Get a low fixed-rate credit card consolidation loan from Lightstream from $5,000 to $100,000 and pay off those credit card balances. Apply online, and you could get your money as soon as the day you apply. The average credit card company charges over 19% APR. But with Lightstream, you can get a fixed rate as low as 7.99% APR with AutoPay and excellent credit.
Now I can pay off my high-interest credit cards and save money with a much lower rate.
Apply today at lightstream.com/radio and get an additional interest rate discount. That's lightstream.com/radio. Lightstream.com/radio.
Subject to credit approval. Rates range from 7.99% APR to 23.99% APR and include a 0.5% auto pay discount. Lowest rate requires excellent credit. Terms and conditions apply and offers are subject to change without notice. Visit lightstream.com/radio for more information.
Get your Cash Blitz scratch tickets from the Texas Lottery while you still can. It's the hot ticket you can enter to win a VIP iHeart trip and a shot to play the $10 million Cash Blitz Challenge. Enter today at TexasLottery.com.
Coming up on the Ben Ferguson podcast, the media is now turning on the White House, and John Kerry is under investigation for his ties to China by House Republicans. So what does this mean for the old guard? I'll explain it to you. Download the Ben Ferguson podcast now.
This report is sponsored by the Ben Ferguson podcast.
Next Thursday, you will be caught in an extreme flash flood.
Disasters don't plan ahead, but you can. Talk to your loved ones about making an emergency plan. Get started today at ready.gov/plan. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages that we are up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. A lot of stuff that we're discussing here today, and we'll keep taking some comments, are hopefully beyond just cockroaches, though. Apparently that's taking a little bit hold with at least a segment of our audience. In any case, do have at least another serious one we want to make sure to talk about here today. If you've ever been familiar with some of the other programming, we do have a program that airs Sundays on all of our local iHeartRadio stations, including right here on News Radio 690 KTSM, the El Paso Public Forum. I mention it sometimes because, on that program, we primarily talk about what's going on with community groups, events, politicians not running for elected office. There's a few definitions we have to follow, but it's about information for the community, actionable stuff, what's going on. So not quite the current events topics we do here, but they're different. But sometimes these things cross-apply. So as much as there has been a lot of discussion in, say, like the State of the Union and related things and our airwaves as well, with what is going on with particularly drug smuggling. Fentanyl has become beyond a scourge, but a downright dangerous and deadly situation for many across the country. So I was able to speak briefly with Jennifer Talamantes, founder of Fighting to Save Lives, the Jacob T. Legacy Foundation. So here's a preview of the full interview that we'll be having for you this weekend on that program. Enjoy. Joining me now, we have Jennifer Talamantes, founder of the Fighting to Save Lives, Jacob T. Legacy Foundation. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Good morning. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Happy to talk with you because this is a part of what has been a increasingly focus on and even promoted and discussed in our region here, particularly that of fentanyl and the dangers that come along with it. Now, there is a whole lot involved in that subject here, but I want to focus on specifically the impacts and what you all focus on, the impacts that it has on individuals and families such as yourself here, because as much as fentanyl, the smuggling of it, and the law enforcement aspects are certainly important, the impact that it has on individual lives from even those that may be unaware of it can be quite significant. So for those unfamiliar about it, could you talk a little bit about the foundation and the work that you all do?
Yes, we are Fighting to Save Lives. And the reason why we created Fighting to Save Lives is because I lost my son, Jacob Talamantes, back in 2020. And I did not know about fentanyl. I did not know how dangerous it was until my son had passed away. He was 25 years old. And I just feel I have to do something. I have to raise awareness because a lot of families say that it could never happen to them or to their child. But with the increasing and alarming rates of children and even young adults dying from this poison, the community and the public need to be aware. So what we are doing, we are going into schools and we are giving presentations to students of the dangers of fentanyl and how not only it can kill them, but how it will also affect their families. Aside from that, we also have a support group for grieving families who have lost somebody not only to fentanyl poisoning, but to substance use disorder. We have partnered up with DEA and they are supporting us. So we just want to get it out there, let everybody know how important it is that parents protect their children's social media because fentanyl, we have drug dealers on social media platforms that are where kids can order a Percocet, a counterfeit Percocet or any type of drug online, and it's being delivered to their front door. So I've heard so many stories of grieving mothers who have found their children in their bedrooms gone because of this drug. It only takes 2 milligrams. 2 milligrams is a lethal dose that will kill an average adult. This is the leading cause of death for 18 to 45-year-olds. However, right now we have a humongous problem where it is killing our 14-year-olds. I was working with a family last week who here in El Paso, she was a relative of what's going on in Carlton, where there was fentanyl being distributed at a middle school and at a high school in Carlton, Texas. 3 of them have passed away. 6 of them are in the hospital as of now, but we reached out to family members over there. We were able to help them with support for the families, and we're going to do the same here in El Paso. We also serve not only El Paso, we serve all of New Mexico and West Texas. So one of our big problems that we're facing right now is stigma. It's very important that families think that this can only happen to kids who may be using drugs, but that's not the case here. These drugs, fentanyl, is being transported into our area in the form of a pill. The cartels are manufacturing it at a fast speed, and they're sending it over here to our borders. I want to say thank you to our Border Patrol and our Homeland Security. They have been seizing a large amount of fentanyl at our borders, and easy to manufacture. So these guys are bringing it over here, and they're selling it to our children. Our children are dying, and I do not want another family to go through what I have gone through. I do not want them to lose their child to this horrible epidemic that is poisoning our nation.
Again, if you're just joining us, guest right now is Jennifer Talamantes, founder of the Fighting to Save Lives Jacob T. Legacy Foundation. If you want to find any more information about them and what we are talking about here, you can also find them online, particularly on Facebook. Fighting to Save Lives Jacob's Legacy Foundation is where you can find them there. So again, that's a preview of the full interview that we're going to be having on our airwaves as of this weekend. Again, the El Paso Public Forum airs Sundays at 7 a.m. on all of our local iHeartRadio stations. So both this and, well, whatever your other ones of choice here are. If anyone's ever confused about that, yeah, News Radio 690 KTSM is definitely where I am most of the time. But you can also find me in that voice and on that program on also Fox Sports 1380, Sunny 99.9, 96.3 KH Country, and Power 102.1. Oh, also Hot 93.5. Sometimes forget that one. But in any case, with that and after that brief preview, we're going to go ahead and take that next break right now. So with that, we're also going to go ahead and open up those phone lines. So if you want to get on the line, remember that number to call is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Delving into your thoughts, your calls, more on the comments. Well, of course, here after this break, and talk more about the contest. Already got that trivia question posted up over on our social media, so check that out, get that answer, get those tickets, all of that detail and more after this break on News Radio 690 KTSM. Don't go anywhere.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
2 crashes on the Gateway right now having an impact on traffic. Gateway East at Lee Trevino, an accident there is blocking 2 left lanes, only 1 lane to get by. On Gateway West at Yarborough, an injury accident with El Paso Fire on the scene. Stop and go traffic on the I-10 westbound, McRae to the Patriot, 6-minute delays. And police still working an injury accident northbound Lee Trevino at Rojas. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by General Dynamics Information Technology.
Are you fluent in English and Spanish? Make an impact helping others while supporting our government. GDIT is hiring bilingual customer service representatives in El Paso. Full and part-time opportunities available. Apply now at gdit.com/El Paso.
First, we decide where we want to go. Then we need to know the best way to get there. Hi, my name's Adam Barada. I'm the owner of Advantage Gold. We're the highest rated precious metals firm in the country. We teach people how to own physical gold and silver. Now, we've won the Best of TrustLink Award 4 years in a row because we educate our clients on how to buy gold and silver the right way. We don't pay celebrity spokespeople millions of dollars. We'd rather pass that value on to you. Call 800-900-8000 and speak with one of our experts. We'll send you a free gold kit along with my latest #1 national best-selling book, The Great Devaluation. Call 800-900-8000. That's 800-900-8000. Get the best information, the best process, the best service, the best value. Call Advantage Gold at 800-900-8000. Call 800-900-8000.
Advantage Gold is not an investment advisor or a tax advisor. Consult with your financial advisor before investing.
Call 800-900-8000.
Guys, this Valentine's Day, give her the next best thing to wearing nothing at all. Available exclusively at Pajamagram. Sexy, sultry, naturally nude pajamas feel just like her soft skin. Even more alluring than lingerie, the texture and touch of these pajamas is so seductive that you'll both love the feel of them. Leave nothing to the imagination with naturally nude pajamas. Go to pajamagram.com right now and save 25%. Pajamagram will even wrap the whole gift up for free. That's right, 25% off naturally nude pajamas and free gift packaging. Listen, if you missed out on this offer during Christmas, don't make the same mistake twice. But you need to order today because last year they sold out before Valentine's Day. Here's what you do. Go to pajamagram.com right now. That's pajamagram.com. Use code NUDE, N-U-D-E, and save 25% off your order of naturally nude pajamas. Order now.
El Paso Children's Hospital is excited to welcome Dr. Jonathan Chow, ENT, and Dr. Amanda Chow, audiologist, to our new pediatric ear, nose, and throat clinic, where we will now offer cochlear implants. Serving a 350-mile radius, there's only one El Paso Children's Hospital.
The state of California is out with a new law trying to muzzle any doctor who questions the COVID consensus. So what does that mean for medicine moving forward? We'll talk to one man who's suing the state. Listen to The Truth with Lisa Booth every Monday and Thursday, but you can listen throughout the week on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live, streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various many social media platforms we're up on these days. A lot of ways to interact with the show, including through those. Again, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. It can maybe not so much on Twitter right now. It's been having some issues lately, but I mean, we do try to check it, see if we're at least like getting messages, those kind of things. Not a lot coming up right now, but we're trying to get the videos up over there. But that's one of the reasons we mention all those different places, and so you can comment there. But you can also get on the phone line if that's more your thing, or if you're not able to be on a electronic device right now, like a cell phone, I guess you'd still be able to call on, but like a computer, a laptop, typing on it in any case. That number, of course, to call is 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Do, of course, want to mention that next trivia, we did have the winner from yesterday, the one answering the trivia question that we had put forth about when did Chris Stapleton have that duet of his song and a mashup with Justin Timberlake's at the CMAs, as I got corrected on, and the winner there answering correctly on the post that we have shared from News Radio 690 KTSM on Facebook. The answer there being 2015. So we have a new one up for you right now. So if you haven't already, you can see it. We have it shared and linked over on the show page, Talk El Paso, but just got to go to the original post, answer there. So the question that we have just posted and is up now: when did Chris Stapleton move to Nashville to pursue a music career? So if you put the actual number, if you actually put the actual date there, you're going to be getting your chance to win that last set of tickets that we got for, again, Chris Stapleton's All-American Road Show. Of course, you can buy those tickets tomorrow, but you can still win them before you can buy them here right now. So let's take at least one call before we hit that top of the hour break here, and we'll answer more questions, certainly. But again, that number to call, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. We do have Raul in the Northeast on the line with us here right now. Raul, thanks for joining us.
Well, as I was hearing the news on your station that the Walmart killer has pleaded guilty. So this guy was incited by the racist, xenophobic rhetoric of Donald Trump. That's my opinion, and that of our current congresswoman and our former congressperson, and many, many El Pasoans feel that way. But the big news is that Vice President Putz was subpoenaed by Special Counsel Jack Smith in the Trump probe. I like that. Trump being probe. Boy, he's been probed a whole bunch. He has all this probe, coming to him. It's his bad karma. And I saw an interview of Mike Putz said that Trump's words and actions were reckless, endangering his life, that of his family, and that of the Capitol's occupants. Now, the legal experts are saying that Pence is the gold mine of testimony and evidence. So Special Counsel Jack Smith, according to these legal experts, are going to be questioning Pence about Trump pressuring him not to certify the election's results. And as we know, Trump put a target on Pence after he wouldn't do it. And the next thing they're chanting, "Hang Mike Pence! Hang Mike Pence!" I mean, come on. The Republicans have been horrible in my voting lifetime, starting with Nixon and Watergate and his opening up the door to China to eviscerate American labor unions, fluing government environmental and workplace regulations. Then came Reagan with his trickle-down economics, which began the shrinking and stagnation of America's middle class, and then exacerbated the ever-widening gap between the haves and the have-nots. And then the Republicans gave us murderous moron Bush number 2 and his occupation of Iraq, being the first president in the U.S. history to cut taxes while prosecuting 2 wars, and putting that $2 trillion expense on the credit card, some of which China purchases through government bonds. And then the latest Republican devolution into the cult of Trump. The party boy, the reality TV star who lived a liberal lifestyle, 5 kids from 3 wives, all of whom he cheated on, bragging about sexually serially assaulting women, who then flip-flopped on every issue he was. He was pro-gun regulation before he was against it. He was pro-choice before he was anti-abortion. He was for Bush's war in Iraq before he was against it. Yeah, that Trump was a Johnny-come-lately conservative.
I'm glad we at least got to some kind of policy there, because I'd almost be, as much as you are talking about cults there, thinking you're somewhat of a closeted one yourself with how in-depth you are on the personality of the previous president. But again, glad we came around to the idea of some of the policy things here. And I would say that, particularly on the issues of gun control that you kind of mentioned there, that at least some of the policies that were put forth, not exactly laws, that because there wasn't much passed on that really in any recent-ish. I'd be hesitant to say, okay, this decade. I'd be pretty comfortable in saying this decade, in the last decade, of anything coming up with actually changes in laws there, but policies were changed. But that's what we really want to talk about. Those are important things to look at. But I'll tell you what, Friday's coming, and if we want to do a review of all of the perceived wrongs or foibles of previous presidents, we can certainly talk about that there, but otherwise we'll keep focusing on certainly the local issues here. So we got to take that end of the hour break right now. Coming out of this, we will get to more calls, more comments, more of the things we do at this point in the program. So stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Biggest delays so far this afternoon, probably on the I-10 westbound between McRae and the Patriot. It's a 10-minute delay, all stop and go. I-10 eastbound at Lee Trevino, a stalled truck, a semi is blocking the right shoulder. On Gateway East before Lee Trevino, an accident there's got 2 left lanes blocked. And Gateway West at Yarborough, an injury accident with El Paso Fire and Medical on the scene. Carrie Edwards, El Paso Traffic.
News Radio 690 is KTSM AM El Paso, an iHeart radio station.
NBC News Radio, I'm Brian Shook. Department of Defense officials are explaining why they didn't shoot down the Chinese surveillance balloon sooner.
They come up and they go over Alaska. Sometimes they go on the top, sometimes they go straight across, but Alaska is it.
During a Senate hearing, Alaska Senator Lisa Murkowski questioned why the balloon was allowed to move over her state and the continental U.S. for days. DoD official Melissa Dalton said downing the balloon in cold and turbulent waters around Alaska would have made recovery and intel efforts more complex and dangerous. The death toll from a massive earthquake earlier this week in Turkey and Syria is now above 20,000. The quake was a magnitude 7.8. Turkey's foreign minister noted dozens of nations and international organizations have stepped up to provide aid. Southwest Chief Operating Officer is apologizing to customers but refuses to reimburse them with cash. Pressed by senators about the $300 credit the airline offered to passengers whose flights were canceled over Christmas, Andrew Watterson said that if customers decide to fly with another airline, that's their choice. But he said Southwest wouldn't reimburse them for those flights unless it was with Southwest. Former President Trump's Facebook and Instagram accounts are back. Lisa Taylor has more.
Meta, who owns both social media platforms, reinstated the former president's accounts. The company announced last month it would be ending Trump's suspension in the coming weeks. President of Global Affairs at Meta, Nick Clegg, said at the time the company determined Trump was no longer a serious risk to public safety. Trump's accounts were pulled following the attack on the U.S. Capitol.
New information from the U.S. Department of Education shows half the nation's students began this school year a full year behind grade level in at least one subject because of pandemic disruptions. You're listening to the latest from NBC News Radio. A Virginia school district is facing more lawsuits after a teacher was shot last month. The families of two Rich Neck Elementary students say they intend to sue. The 25-year-old victim sent a letter to Newport News Public Schools stating the same thing, claiming the school knew he had been suspected of having a gun at least 3 previous times. Actor Nathan Chasing Horse is now facing federal charges.
Federal authorities charged Chasing Horse, who is behind bars in Nevada, with sexual exploitation and pornography crimes on Wednesday. A judge in North Las Vegas has also set a $300,000 bail order for the actor, who appeared in the movie Dances with Wolves. He's accused of sex crimes involving underage Indigenous girls. Similar charges were filed against Chasing Horse in Canada earlier this week. Court documents in the Clark County, Nevada case claim investigators found a device with video showing one of the alleged sex acts. I'm Daniel Martindale.
Wholesale egg prices have fallen in recent weeks from record highs, meaning consumers may soon see relief at the grocery store. Erin Real reports.
Egg prices fell to $2.61 per dozen on Monday, a 52% decrease from the peak of $5.43 in December, and a 47% decrease from the beginning of 2023. Average retail prices increased nearly 60% in 2022, according to the Consumer Price Index. This comes on the heels of the deadliest outbreak of bird flu in the history of the U.S. in 2022, killing more than 58 million birds and significantly disrupting egg supplies. On average, it takes about 4 weeks for retail prices to reflect wholesale price trends. That means that consumers may start to see some relief in mid-February.
2 goats are in the hands of Harris County, Texas Animal Control after being rounded up at a department store. Deputies responded on Wednesday to reports of the goats wandering around inside a Target. The deputies corralled the goats and removed them. No word yet on who they belong to. Brian Shook, NBC News Radio.
Now your chance to win $1,000. Just enter this nationwide keyword on our website. Bonus. That's bonus. Enter it now.
This report is sponsored by Breakmasters.
Before your day is done, Breakmasters has already helped thousands of people get back to their families safely. Get your vehicle in Breakmasters shape. Download coupons at breakmasters.com. Only then can you say your day is done.
Breakmasters. We give you an honest break.
Play Cash Blitz scratch tickets today. You could win top prizes from $5,000 to $1 million. And have you heard about the $10 million Cash Blitz challenge? It's your second chance to win big. Just enter non-winning tickets at texaslottery.com. You could win a VIP trip to an iHeartRadio event or concert, or a shot to play the $10 million Cash Blitz challenge in Austin. Play today and enter to win at texaslottery.com. That's texaslottery.com.
Only iHeartRadio gives you access to all.
iHeartRadio.
Access to all of your favorite radio stations.
It's Ryan Seacrest. I go by the name of Charlamagne the God.
Hi, I'm Ellen Kay.
Bobby Bones here. Hola, soy Enrique Santos.
Access to all of the best free curated playlists.
My favorite music, best songs.
A little bit of everything.
Access to all of the great podcasts for every interest.
The Stuff You Should Know podcast. The Daily Show podcast. The Herd with Colin Cowherd.
And best of all, it doesn't cost a thing. Download the absolutely free iHeartRadio app now.
With people getting in shape for summer, I want to let them know my fitness center is more than treadmills and free weights. So I created a radio ad at iHeartAdBuilder.com to spread the word about our yoga and boot camp classes. Now, my business is as healthy as our members.
A custom radio ad from iHeart Ad Builder is the fast, affordable way to drive customers to your business. Put the power of radio to work for you. Get started now at iHeartAdBuilder.com.
For my small bookstore to thrive, I can't just sell books. So I created a radio ad at iHeartAdBuilder.com to tell everyone about our author events, our story hours for kids, and our amazing lattes. Now we're busier than ever. I'd call that a success story.
A custom radio ad from iHeart Ad Builder is the fast, affordable way to drive customers to your business. Put the power of radio to work for you. Get started now at iHeartAdBuilder.com.
Getting a news feed on your phone while driving
makes driving more difficult. This is dangerous.
Getting a news feed without a computer or mobile device?
It would be impossible.
Unless, of course, you get your live news feeds at the top and bottom of the hour.
It's easy.
Traffic and weather all day.
It's as simple as that.
Trending stories tend to change.
Every minute of every day.
Twice an hour, we'll feed your curiosity.
Stay informed. Shouldn't we listen? They're hungry.
News Radio 690 KTSM. There won't be much substance on your news feed until you add us. Just like us or click on the link at kcsmradio.com.
There are things that go together that make mornings better. Coffee and cream, bacon and eggs, pancakes and syrup.
Let's take a look at traffic and weather together.
Traffic and weather. Yeah.
Stay informed with El Paso's News Radio. Updates all day long.
General things like that help me get through my day.
Before you head out, get together with our traffic and weather. Traffic and weather all day. Stay informed with El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM. News Radio 690 KTSM.
Only in the forest can you see this. And this. And this. But nothing beats the moment you see that.
Cool!
That's your child's eyes opening up to a world of possibilities.
I didn't know it could do that!
Because one trip to the forest can spark a world of difference.
There are some moments only the forest can inspire. Find yours at discovertheforest.org. Learn about forests near you and discover cool things to do when you go, like hiking, canoeing, fishing, or camping. Or create your own adventure with family and friends, and you might just see this. Your moment's out there. Find it at discovertheforest.org. That's discovertheforest.org.
Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, from the be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages. We are up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. And also the phone line's open now, of course, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM is the number to call. If you want to get on the line, add your 2 cents. There's a lot of commentary coming in as well for, as to be expected there, including some response back and forth on the kind of idea of it. James Radcliffe saying that bad thing if someone in political positions locally believe in the same ideologies of the previous caller, and at least one person, Patriot Chick, saying, going to name the roach for the old stop bugging me thing after the previous caller as well. I guess that's technically allowed. So whatever's bugging you, including that, though, we have a little bit more of a direct action here of being able to call in and add your 2 cents. So if you want to do so, again, that number is 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. And let me just take something straight on here. Louis Pinato saying, shame, quoting directly, shame on you, Andrew, for tolerating this twit every day. So let me make something clear in case anyone is like missing the point of what we do here. I mean, yes, I talk about the local issues, put out things that I think are significant going in our area every day, kind of set the table for the discussion, but then we do open up like the phone lines, the comments, those things. So if you don't want to hear what someone has to say, it's entirely in your right and your prerogative to decide not to. But if you're saying, therefore, I don't like what someone's saying, therefore they shouldn't be able to say it, that's when we're getting into the realm that I am going to forever oppose. The idea of saying if it's not politically correct, so to speak, that you're not allowed to say it. And that's not even a little bit of what we're going to do or how we're going to go about it on this program. Because delving into the issues, and again, if you don't like something, respond to it. If you think it's wrong, if you think I'm wrong, frankly, this is not a you have to agree with me kind of program here. So if you want to call in, if you want to air your grievances, so to speak, or at least talk about the things we got going on here, I'm not saying that we have to build consensus, but if you think that just shutting it down, saying nope, shut them up kind of mentality, never, ever, ever going to be what we support here. So again, if you want to get on the line, that number to do so, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. We do have Andrew on the west side of the line with us here right now. Andrew, thanks for joining us.
Yes, thank you, Andrew. These migrant encounters, especially the one that occurred down towards the lower valley.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. According to Univision, this last one that came about one of the last ones that came about,
sure,
of about 500 from Venezuela, apparently they were given false information that the U.S. was providing permission and travel to the Canadian border.
Okay. I hadn't seen that particular detail. It's part of what our news partners have, but let me just say I wouldn't be too surprised about that being the case, honestly, because we've talked about previously, there's quite the marketing operation that has to necessarily, I don't have any direct evidence I can point to, but to convince people to uproot their lives and say that there's totally something better available, that I would call that marketing. And the fact that there is going to have to be an operation going on by these cartels, the coyotes, any of these, international criminal syndicates that we're talking about here, in order to convince people to do this and even snooker them and even hoodwink them and literally kidnap them in some cases, as was earlier this week, the stash house that was padlocked from the outside. Like, these are not good folks. These are not just trying to help out some people and making a little bit of money on their own in the meantime. No, these are literally criminals that are there here to exploit everyone around all parts of this situation, including the people who live here, including the people who they're enticing to come here. They're not above exploiting them either. So it's a bad situation from start to end. So I'm not surprised that that kind of line is being floated as well, where it definitely comes down to that there needs to be more done from the U.S. side to essentially counteract that. It's not even just a law enforcement, a physical security, or if we're talking about like international operations, I mean, Interpol doesn't apply here, I know, but the idea of that, it's an intelligence and almost a communications, a PSYOPs operation that we're almost talking about the scope of now.
Yes, and as I've said before, remember, this administration has taken the door off the hinges, not only here, but the Mexican government needs to put the door back on the hinges on its southern border and enforce their immigration laws, not just say, okay, well, as long as you don't stick around, you can go to the U.S. border. That needs to stop right there. Maybe a little bit of economic sanctions against Mexico. Not give them several $1 billion for a couple of months. Maybe that'll encourage them a bit.
I mean, there was definitely a pressure campaign that could be very plainly seen under the previous administration in doing that. The dictates, however you want to put it there. One of the ways that's been at least floated to me, this was more around the time of the whole build the wall and get Mexico to pay for it kind of statements during the 2016 election. I mean, there was a lot of kind of like, okay, but how would that work? I mean, what would be the mechanism done there? and one that's never really been fully explored, but could be possible kind of in the way that you're talking about for this situation, would be remittances. So it's not exactly government provided, but money being sent internationally, and particularly to Mexico. I feel like it's a pretty common, so much that it's almost never actually talked about, or at least reported on that much, about the money being earned here in the U.S. and then being sent through, like, wire transfers, Western Union, other similar types of thing back into Mexico. Those are not beyond a level of, well, government control, essentially. So focusing on that was the kind of, again, floated potentially. I mean, this was kind of just brainstorming as opposed to any specific kind of effort I can point to, but I've never really seen that explored. So I would see that as a potential angle, though I have no reason to believe that that would actually be done in any kind of near future.
Well, even if something such a measure were to get past both chambers, the president would veto it right away. But anyway, one of the biggest slogans or marketing slogans, and it's coming out like a big banner, is what the Dems are always propounding: a pathway to citizenship. I always hear that. Why not say a potential for legal status? But you hear that, a pathway to citizenship. Heck, I'm gonna get on the fastest transportation, sell all my belongings, and yeah, sure enough, I'll traverse through Central America to come up here. Yeah, that's a big sales point right there, Andrew.
Yeah, I mean, again, there's a lot of, the sales point, the entire marketing campaign, but also the continued pressure on this here. I will say that at least some of the quotations on some of those that were part of this group, according to our news partners over at KFOX 14, I'll quote here directly, saying that, that they wanted to get to Canada and leave Mexico. Others saying they just were desperate to get out of that situation. Quote, "It's not just the people, but the shelters, the food, how they treat us. It's not the way to treat a human being. The police abuse us. We get robbed. Immigration officials treat us as if we're an animal and we're humans just like them." At least one of them being interviewed out of that, at least part of that group there. So, yeah, there's a lot of kind of compound factors here. Misinformation about, oh no, you'll get everything you want kind of things being something that needs to be counteracted more directly by, just in my mind, but also, the burgeoning situation that has been continuing to get pressure just being built, as we talked about at the start of the program, without that being addressed in a different way. And sure, enforcement is a component, but I keep coming back to, it can't just be enforcement. Otherwise, we still got the pressure cooker on the stove that way.
Right. Well, this is pretty. I'll throw this question out to people. Well, do you think Lopez Obrador is going to house any of these immigrants in the Hilton, Mexico City, like Mayor Eric Adams is housing people in the Watson? I don't think so.
The idea of there being, okay, I will say there is a level of support for this whole process. The phrase we've talked about previously, anti-migration, this essentially kind of tacit approval, maybe mild documentation, but in a very temporary kind of way, like documents dated for a, drop dead date of 30 days after. So that kind of whole idea of, okay, sure, as long as you're not our problem, you can walk through. But as soon as you become our problem, you're getting shipped back to wherever you kind of came from. Position coming from the government of Mexico, AMLO, kind of like you're saying there. We have seen an increase, I feel, not exactly prevalence, because it's pretty hard to point to. The only real evidence I've seen of it has come from like on the ground investigations, people going to those areas on which these kind of points of origin into Mexico have been happening. So it's a hard thing to see from a 30,000 foot view, but it is an increasingly a part of this. We could see it in the, I don't want to call it the inciting incident towards the end of last year, when we saw the massive response happening right in our sector of the border that then resulted in all of these other, the emergency declarations, all of that thing. But it kind of stands out as this was the indication of the sea change leading up to that. Anyway, it was the buses that were being escorted into Ciudad Juarez from further down in Mexico as okay, this is different.
Yes. Well, my message to Lopez Obrador and Biden: close the doors on your border. Yeah, it's good to have a border and a border wall with a door, but don't just leave it open to anybody. Enforce your border laws, enforce your immigration laws. That's my point.
It's a strong potential for that to happen. It has happened previously, so I mean, it would be getting probably into, I'm not sure if AMLO is the most stable person himself anyway, with his theories about soft coups that has been floating occasionally for a while now. So I don't necessarily hold out that much for within the administration currently in Mexico of that being possible. But I think that at the very least, the conversation needs to happen, and there needs to be more pushing on this. And honestly, on the whole idea of remittances, again, I have no reason to believe that that's actually something that's going to be done. It's just an idea that's floated. But given some of the other decisions that have been made when it comes to like the Supreme Court, kind of a little tangential, not directly linked, but the way that there was decided that the remain in Mexico policy, so-called MPP, or actually known as the Migrant Protection Protocols, could be sunsetted by the administration because it was policy put forth of that, and there is usually a large amount of leeway to deal with foreign policy issues. So potentially, I would imagine there could be a tool, at least temporarily, to make something like that happen when it comes to just law enforcement saying that these things are being flagged and need extra investigations, because I don't know if actually stopping them entirely would be possible, feasible, or even needed in that case, because really we're just talking about a pressure campaign, and that would be a hell of one affecting those types of payments.
Well, watch and see. January 2024, the MPP will be put back in place by this administration. Anyway, you have a good afternoon, and thank you for letting me speak.
No, sure thing. Thanks for the point in the call. Do appreciate it.
Take care.
All right, and with that, we're going to go ahead and take that next break right now. Again, if you want to get on the line, that number to do so is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM, the number to call there. And we'll be taking those calls at the end of the hour, so stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Biggest delays so far this afternoon, probably on the I-10 westbound between McRae and the Patriot. It's a 10-minute delay, all stop and go. I-10 eastbound at Lee Trevino, a stalled truck, a semi is blocking the right shoulder. On Gateway East before Lee Trevino, an accident there's got 2 left lanes blocked. And Gateway West at Yarborough, an injury accident with El Paso Fire and Medical on the scene. Carrie Edwards, El Paso Traffic.
Winning $1,000 incites all kinds of emotions.
Are you kidding? No way.
What to do with it is up to you.
We're going to Key West, that's it. What are you, nuts? We're going to Atlantic City.
Listen for your chance to win $1,000 with inflation compensation.
Listen for your chance to win $1,000 every hour from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Enter the nationwide keyword at ktsmradio.com for your chance to win. Brought to you by Sunland Park, Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, where buying a car is fun.
This report is sponsored by Texas Health and Human Services. Life can take a turn for anyone, and if it has for you, remember that there's so much for you to turn to. We all need supportive people and healthy outlets in our lives, so we don't have to face hard times alone. Visit turntosupportstx.org for the help that's right for you.
Welcome to the CPAP Games live from the Hayes bedroom. It's another eventful night, Bruce.
It sure is, Ron. Steve has been struggling with his CPAP.
His wife, Michelle, is trying to contain her rage.
Michelle throws an elbow.
She's leaving for the couch.
Steve should get Inspire.
Absolutely, Bruce. Inspire is a sleep apnea treatment that gives you comfortable, restful sleep with the click of a remote. There's no mask and no hose, just sleep.
Learn more at inspiresleep.com.
Inspire is not for everyone. Talk to your doctor to see if it's right for you and review important safety information at inspiresleep.com.
Why do you buckle up when you get in your truck? Maybe you do it to get home safely to your loved ones, or because you take your job as a professional driver seriously, or because you want to follow the law to stay safe. Remember, it doesn't matter how long you've been driving, or even if it's a quick trip. Wear your seatbelt to stay safe on the road. Learn more at www.sharetheroadsafely.gov. That's www.sharetheroadsafely.gov. And remember to buckle up when you get behind the wheel. Paid for by FMCSA.
This week, Staples has deals so good, you're going to want to sit down. Are you sitting? I'll wait. Great. Right now during Staples Sit-a-thon, select chairs are more than 50% off. Like the leather Vortex gaming chair, now just $119.99 at Staples. You save $140. Plus, an 80 count of Lysol disinfecting wipes is only $1.99. So take a seat or two. Right now at Staples, the working, learning, and saving store. Offers end to 11. Share offer valid in-store and online. Lysol in-store only. While supplies last.
Progressive presents Adjusting to the Suburbs.
I never thought I'd care about gardening until I bought a house in the suburbs. But now I find myself in conversations about liquid fertilizer, and I wonder, am I the fertilizer guy now? No way. Everyone knows the ratio between phosphorus and nitrogen, right? Yeah, I'm still totally cool.
Anyway, when you save with Progressive by bundling your home and auto, that's the easy part of adjusting to the suburbs. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, coverage provided and serviced by affiliates and third-party insurers.
When is the best time to talk to your family about staying in touch during a disaster? When floodwaters reach your door? When wildfires are engulfing the edge of your neighborhood? Or an earthquake is destroying buildings? When a tornado is tearing through town? Or a hurricane strikes? Or is the best time perhaps today? During a disaster, you may not be able to stay in touch with your family or friends as easily as you think. And it's not always as simple as using your cell phone. That's why now is the time to take action. Go to ready.gov/communicate and make your emergency plan today. Don't wait. Communicate. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
Olivia from Washington. Laid off and trying to keep our little kids from realizing that mommy and daddy haven't eaten in a while.
Roger from California. I'm grateful we could afford our son's surgery. I'm nervous that now we can't really afford food.
Daniel from California. Choosing whether to pay the rent or pay to fix the car to get to work doesn't leave us with much at all. Now we can't even pay for meals.
Donna from Louisiana. The storm just hit, and we went from donating to the food bank to needing it.
Keisha from South Carolina. I've been skipping meals so my 2 kids can eat, but filling up on water doesn't really work.
Hunger is a story we can end. End it at feedingamerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live, streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we are up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. Just a quick reminder that we are actually having that next trivia question over on our social media right now, so I think you got the answer. Make sure to go to facebook.com/KTSM690 or just search up News Radio 690 KTSM on Facebook. Question today is, when did Chris Stapleton move to Nashville to pursue a music career? This will be the last edition of our giveaway for the before the actually tickets go on sale. Chris Stapleton's All-American Roadshow Tour will be kicking off here in El Paso April 26th. He'll also be doing the performance of the national anthem at the upcoming Super Bowl. So if you want to be able to see him in person when he comes through town, make sure to go over there and answer that question. Anyway, we also got those phone lines going on right now. People dropping those likes and reacts that we do appreciate, including Matt Olson, James Radcliffe, Flaco Jimenez, Robbie Flores, Monica Cervantes, and John Adams. And also comments coming in from other places, including a Patriot Chick on the whole asylum thing, saying asylum seekers coming from 150 countries, 150 plus countries, rather. Honestly, how many are really asylum seekers? I mean, there has been, haven't seen updated numbers on this. I'm still operating on, it's not quite pre-pandemic, but it feels like a lifetime ago. Anyway, that at the very least in our local area, because the whole thing about immigration courts is that they are, well, they're not judicial system courts. We call them courts. They're headed by what we call judges, but they fall under the executive branch. So they're not true courts. They are a legal process that is a part of the laws and the way they have been passed, but they work very differently, and they are divided up in these cases by the different Border Patrol districts. So for our district, for the El Paso sector, rather, sectors is the correct phrase there, it's actually been upwards of 90% denial rates for those cases that have been, say, originating or at the very least been heard here. So the vast, and I do mean vast majority of people coming through and attempting to do it that way have been denied because of lack of justification for them to do the asylum claim. Now, that doesn't get talked about as much because another mitigating factor going into that is that getting to that point, getting into that courtroom, getting into that process takes an extended period of time. It's not just even the whole concept of a credible fears hearing. It's a lot more than that. And so setting that up and getting it through can take, I'd be confident in saying this point, years or getting close to it anyway. Another comment that came in a little bit earlier also on the whole fentanyl situation, Patriot Chick asking, neighbor lost her grandson to fentanyl poisoning, which is it's happened too much. I mean, it's been the leading cause, as was said during our little bit of preview interview a little bit earlier in the last hour of the show, that it's a leading cause of death from those, 15 to 45, I do believe here. They do have a phone number if you would like to get a hold of them. You're asking if there was a contact number for Jennifer's organization, so missed that earlier, but I do want to give you the answer now. Number to call is 575-518-4258. So that again, 575-518-4258. So that's for the Fighting to Save Lives Jacob T. Legacy Foundation. In the meantime, of course, we have those phone lines open now. If you want to get on the line there, that number to do so is 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. We do have Jerry in the Northwest on the line with us here right now. Jerry, thanks for joining us.
Well, thank you, Andrew, for taking my call. And I'm glad you're bringing this fentanyl situation to the front burner. It needs to really be looked at.
I mean, certainly. I mean, even if people haven't heard about it, the whole concept of the opioid crisis has been significant. I mean, there have been literal tens of billions of dollars settlements that have been settled around this. So I feel like a lot of people haven't heard about this. What may not, and apparently is unclear, I guess I've just heard about this and read more about it than some conversations I've had with people, that the line from, like, say, the prescription opioids, it doesn't stop there. It then sometimes goes to heroin, or heck, I was actually listening to an interview today that was on some other radio stations here in town about someone went from OxyContin to what they thought was heroin, but actually ended up being fentanyl and nearly dying themselves because of it, because it's cheap and apparently pretty plentiful. I mean, heck, what was it yesterday? Better part of 50 pounds of fentanyl, powder fentanyl coming through our area. And the fact that it takes some of the other spoilers for that interview we're going to be having on Sunday, takes like 2 milligrams in order to get to a lethal adult dose. Yeah, it's some really sinister stuff.
Yes, sir. And what is even worse sinister is these people are sending out this fentanyl and they're actually killing their customer.
Yeah.
In the old days, and I say old days, I mean, we're talking 4 or 5 years ago.
Sure.
Old days. The pusher actually wanted to sell more so they would get the kid hooked on whatever they had, meth or heroin or something like that, so they could sell more afterwards. Now they are killing their clientele on the first stroke.
Yeah, and
first sale.
And that's why there's been, among other things, including what we talked about yesterday, the response from Governor Greg Abbott to the State of the Union address involved the idea of the one pill can kill program. I've seen billboards here around town focusing on that as well, because it's not even just, okay, if this was a punitive thing, you're doing bad things, I would still argue it doesn't immediately warrant a death sentence, but also it can be people who have no idea what's going on to it. They have no idea that they may be doing something that is counterfeited or is tainted. I mean, literally, it's been involved in just like innocuous looking, like basic ibuprofen type painkillers, and someone ends up kicking the bucket because of it. That is not right and not okay, and should not be anywhere near tolerated or said oh, well, that's just what happens. No, this is something that is man-made and is being caused and should be combated as much as possible.
Yes, sir. And it's easy to get a hold of. You can order it over mail order through the internet.
Yeah.
So, this needs to be brought through and stopped, whichever way we can. And it can be stopped at the border. It can be stopped if President Joe Biden will take up his actual duty to protect the citizens of the United States. That is one of the constitutional duties he has written out in the Constitution, is to help protect the citizens of the United States. That's one of his basic responsibilities.
I would agree. And it was a part of what he talked about in the State of the Union, more about essentially ports of entry and screening at them. So, I think that would have an effect if able to be done successfully. But there's also smuggling involved. Like there's a whole lot that goes into it that needs a whole lot more response, I would say.
Yes, instead of blaming other people, he's the one that caused this. Joe Biden did. And incidentally, I need to ask you, do you know what a living wage refers to?
There's a few different definitions that come to mind that I've heard. I think essentially one of the major ones that I've heard it put forth is the idea of having a wage that basically allows you to having a like a 2-bedroom apartment and not paying more than like a quarter of the income on it, kind of thing.
And from one person. But they can do that, and they used to be able to do that back in the 60s. They did that in the 70s. If they would lower the tax rates, they don't need to have all this taxes and then go ahead and spend 200, 300 trillion on some other nation that's fighting a war. I'm sorry. I agree that we need to help them, but we don't need to put ourselves in the poorhouse doing this. Okay. And then also it comes from the Communist Bill of Rights is what they got it listed as. If you look it up, that's exactly where it comes from, is the Communist Bill of Rights. And that's the other reason why he wanted everybody to be in a union, because that way they can control you more. If you're at a job, you do what the union says or you don't have the job. And then they get the kickback. The Democratic Party gets the kickback from the union because the union support the Democrats. Well, Andrew, I want to thank you for taking up this fentanyl. I don't have any relatives that got hurt or sick from it, but
thankfully
I do know some people that have, and it is when you lose a loved one because of them taking a pill and didn't know they were taking, they've been duped, from what they thought they bought, and it's just disgusting. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, sure thing. Thanks for the point in the call. Do appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
All right, and with that, already well overdue for that next break right now. We'll take a few more calls here in the coming segment. Again, if you want to get on the line, that number to do so is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Hello, I'm Erica Castillo with this KFOX 14 News Update. More than 500 migrants showed up at the border gate near Yarborough and the border highway. The group, which is mostly from Venezuela, tried to enter El Paso illegally yesterday and today, according to the El Paso Border Patrol chief. Authorities arrived at the scene at about 3 in the morning today. Border Patrol reports the encounters occurred in the span of a few hours between 8:30 last night and 12:30 in the morning. Bed Bath & Beyond is closing some of its stores in El Paso and Las Cruces. Bed Bath & Beyond stores on George Dieter in East El Paso and the store on Lowman in Las Cruces will be closing. The retailer announced this week it'll be shutting down 150 locations nationwide. And the city of El Paso's zoo is ready to take those names for its annual Quit Bugging Me Valentine's Day promotion, where people can name a Madagascar hissing cockroach after a former paramour, a boss, mother-in-law, or someone who's just been bugging you. From now until Valentine's Day, anyone can submit a name online. The cockroaches will then be fed to meerkats for everyone's viewing satisfaction. I'm Erica Castillo with this KFOX 14 News Update.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
Traffic's getting a little heavier on the I-10 right now from Hunter Viscount to the Patriot. It's a 15-minute delay. 2 vehicles up on the left shoulder, I-10 eastbound at Dallas, slowing traffic. There's an accident reported southbound Joe Battle at Edgemere, and an accident towards downtown Stanton at East Paisano. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Brad Montgomery. The front that is giving us the gusty conditions is going to bring in some colder air for tonight and tomorrow morning. Lows down into the teens and 20s. Definitely want that coat, jacket, maybe some gloves for your Friday morning. For your Friday, still on the cool side. Still want the coat and jacket during the day with a high around 50 degrees. Milder conditions returning for your Saturday with a high around 60. From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Brad Montgomery.
This report is sponsored by Brakemasters.
Before your day is done, Brakemasters has already helped thousands of people get back to their families safely. Get your vehicle in Brakemasters shape. Download coupons at Brakemasters.com. Only then can you say your day is done.
Brakemasters. We give you an honest break. How Payne turned an avid outdoorsman into a frustrated indoorsman. Meet Ron.
I was always active. Fishing, swimming, hiking.
Until his flat feet brought it all to a grinding halt.
It is sharp pain shooting up your leg to your back.
And the pain was just the beginning.
When you're hurting, you can't move. So I ended up being a couch potato and my health declined.
Fortunately, Ron had someone in his corner.
My wife said, that's it. I'm going to take you to the Good Feet store.
Where he was personally fitted for arch supports.
I took one step. There was no back pain. I took another step, no knee pain. And after my second step, I went into my Good Feet dance.
Today, he's grateful to be back in the great outdoors.
I feel like a new person, thanks to the Good Feet store.
See for yourself how arch supports can help you. Stop by for your free fitting or schedule one at goodfeet.com.
Airway Boulevard at I-10.
As a Walgreens pharmacist, I talk with people all the time about little tips and tricks for filling their Medicare prescriptions, like taking advantage of Walgreens 90-day refills to save them a trip, or using Refill by Scan, which is super easy and right on your phone. And for anybody worried about prescription costs, I say, hey, we got you, with low-cost copays on many medications.
Let's talk about making things easier. Walgreens is here. Fill your way and save at walgreens.com/Medicare. See pharmacists for restrictions and exclusions.
Are you fluent in English and Spanish? Make an impact helping others while supporting our government. GDIT is hiring bilingual customer service representatives in El Paso. Full and part-time opportunities available. Apply now at gdit.com/El Paso.
This report is sponsored by General Dynamics Information Technology.
All right, class. Let's hear what everyone did this weekend. Jill?
Well, I raised my older sister to a big oak tree. It was at least 100 years old. My mom said I must have set a record or something. And then we went down by a stream and perched up on this huge rock and saw all of these little minnows swimming around way below us. And then I rescued my little brother from an evil slug king who was guarding him at the bush fortress. And my sister and I brought him back to our super twig fort for safety. And then we all laid out and told stories until it got dark. And the Big Dipper led us all the way home.
Wow. Awesome. Where were you, Jill?
Yeah. We went to the forest. It's not that far away. Anyone want to come this weekend?
Ask your parents to take you and your friends to the forest this week and find the fun, adventurous you. It's closer than you think. Check out discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
That is the call of a ring-tailed lemur resonating through the wildlands of Madagascar. And that familiar sound is the call of an African elephant from the vast savannas of northern Kenya. These animals speak different languages, but they both have the same story to tell. Their species are in trouble. Their habitats are being altered at a rapid rate, and damaged habitat means less food and less places to live. While we have reintroduced more than 40 endangered species, we cannot return them to a home that does not exist. Rescuing an animal is only half the battle. So please join San Diego Zoo Global Wildlife Conservancy in our efforts to preserve and conserve the native habitats of our endangered species and ensure that the wild places are filled with the wild calls of their inhabitants for generations to come. Join us now at endextinction.org.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages. We are up on these days, Facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or Twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. Okay, I'm not actually sure about the Twitter part of it there, but okay, no, apparently it is up there, but yesterday's got posted later on. Apparently, I don't control these things here, as we're more on the platforms that we are. Anyway, a lot of comments coming in there, those dropping those likes and reacts we appreciate, as well as Rick Reyes saying, asking me, Andrew, did President Biden ever read the letter from Texas Governor Abbott? I would assume so. If you're talking about the one that got handed to him upon his arrival during that recent dish visits to the area, I would assume so, but I don't have like a picture of him reading it or any direct evidence there, or even really direct response that I've seen anyway. So I would hope so. I hope so. I'll put it that way and leave it at that. Other comments coming in, including all there from Patriot Chick, appreciating the providing of that phone number for that organization, the nonprofit. That, again, if you want to catch the full interview in a lot more detail on particularly their efforts and the support groups, that'll be there again this weekend on the El Paso Public Forum. It'll be on 7 a.m. right here on News Radio 690 KTSM on Sunday, but you can catch it on whatever those stations that we have locally that you like there. Let's get to at least one more phone call before we end the program here. If anyone's having trouble getting through, we've had a couple people call in and drop off, so if there's an issue going on there, let us know. If you just got bad signal, that's on you, but don't want to be having issues on this end if we don't have to. But we got at least one call. We got here Mike on the east side with us right now. Mike, thanks for joining us.
Hey, good afternoon, early evening, Andrew.
Yeah, just appreciate that. What's on your mind?
A couple of things. I picked up the radio and heard I've only heard the previous caller, and
okay.
The thing I don't understand was when people say, well, we can stop fentanyl at the border. And my question is, how are you going to do that? Because unless you're going to search every vehicle, under every seat, and every backpack or suitcase and glove compartment and ashtray and trunk and hubcap wheel, unless you're going to physically check each and every vehicle, and we're talking thousands, tens of thousands of vehicles that come across the border every day, every week, how are you going to do that?
I think
it can't be done.
Mm-hmm. One of the specific examples that happened earlier this week, the actual picture sent out by CBP, is that it was fentanyl and meth packaged in the seat, or like in the fender. It's a little bit hard to see from the pictures they sent, but it was in a scooter, among other things. And yeah, the way that they're packaged and try to pass through, it's difficult. And some of these are frankly, these are on the smaller order of magnitude, those particular seizures. The real bang for the buck, both for enforcement and for those trying to sneak it through, comes from volume. I mean, if you can do it in bulk, it gets cheaper, right? And therefore you have better profit margins. So it's the cargo. It's really the big, the tractor trailers, the Connexes, those kind of things that end up being the real focus on it. As much as we've talked about the potential, we've talked about this on previous shows, about there being that $600 million for the expansion of the Bridge of the Americas, including, not specifically, but definitely going to be including cargo. Some of the estimates that I've heard about there of that, beyond just like expanding lanes to be having a lot bit more cargo for it. Because, I mean, sure, if you have more intense scrutiny going on with transit, it's going to take more time. So to keep things up and not let levels drop, essentially with transit, you're going to have to therefore have more capacity, that the cost of the actual like scanners to then effectuate that, even just for the cargo side of it, would be possibly in the billions of dollars.
Yep. And the Chamber of Commerce is, not going to stand for having people, going for hours to get through, to cross the border. The business communities, that's just not going to happen. So it's just trouble. The other thing is, you guys were just briefly talking about living wage and stuff.
Oh, sure.
And, I grew up in Indiana, Michigan, and graduated high school in 1979. Back then, the minimum wage was about $3 an hour. And you could go from high school and get a job with Fisher Body Oldsmobile at one of the factories in the region for $9 an hour, straight out of high school. And after you were worked there for 90 days, as long as you cut the mustard or whatever your job was, you got to join the union and you got a $1 an hour raise. And I had friends, I was going to community college and doing things and working a couple of different jobs, lifeguarding and working at a golf course and stuff.
Okay.
And these friends of mine, they're making $10 an hour, which, back then was really nothing to sniff at. And Monday through Friday. And then if they worked on Saturday, they got time and a half. And if they worked on Sunday, they got double time. And that was because that was the negotiated rate, with the union. And I'm not saying that the unions are the end all, the greatest thing in the world. And of course, the U.S. auto industry was in a big transition there in the late 70s and 80s due to competition from overseas with quality and things like that. But that was a very living wage back in those days, where somebody could, live in that apartment and have a car and do that kind of stuff. And, there was hundreds, if not thousands, of workers up in Michigan that came from the South, especially the African-American community, because a lot of those guys played in our golf leagues up there. And they're like, oh, yeah, I moved from Mississippi and Alabama and Tennessee and stuff, came north, the old, what they called the Route 23 from Kentucky up to Detroit. And because they would get paid 2-3 times what they get paid in the South. And have a quality of life that they didn't have in the South. So the living wage is a challenge. The CEOs make so much more now, and you've seen those statistics where, 50 years ago, the CEO, made 100 times what the average worker makes, and now they make, 1,000 times what the average worker makes at their place. So, yeah, it's hard to do.
It definitely is. And a couple of the compounding factors there would be, among other things, the switch that we have seen generationally from the manufacturing economy you're kind of describing there to then being the, service economy as we've come to it. I mean, what are some of the kind of, I'm not calling them directly the same, but what's kind of okay, I just got to go find somewhere to work that isn't like fast food. Amazon comes first to mind for at least, I think people like my generation or younger. And the change and shift of that, the college town I went to, they had a Maytag plant that ended up shutting down and being jobs shipped overseas, and that significantly affected that area. In that case, they were able to use some programs, some public funding to do retraining, but it significantly just affected that town, even beyond the actual individuals of it. I will say this, that with the kind of, at least for now, global realignment that we are seeing when it comes to manufacturing, trade, the way things are made, shortening of supply chains, that's one of the reasons I keep talking about what we see right in our region, this kind of reshoring or nearshoring anyway, because, I mean, sure, the stuff that is still in the maquila industry doesn't really apply towards getting towards a living wage. That's still about getting some of the better rates for companies and production costs they can see there. But the people wanting to move and put those supply chains and coming through here has some possibilities. I mean, there's been a lot of push in our region in order to go away from the, new business coming in and it's another call center that has, now, $9-10 a job hours, which is now not as good as it was, but it's interesting. And that's why I think we'll continue to see shifts in it, not overnight, but maybe over the coming years, if these trends continue, which is getting into cloudy crystal ball territory for me.
Right. And you mentioned Amazon, that brings a question to mind. There is a huge logistics facility that's being built south of Amazon on the new Waco Tanks Road, which is the southern version of Eastlake Road. Do you know what that building is? That's being built by? I mean, it is humongous. It looks as big or bigger than the Amazon facility down the road.
Right. So I think I've seen a mention of it here. That might be, I'll have to double check on this one. It might be the home goods based one, like they're also doing distribution here, but I don't know if that one already exists.
That's the one by the airport.
Okay.
That's the one off of
Global Reach.
Yeah,
okay.
The Marshalls, TJ Maxx,
right.
Home Goods. This one is down south of I-10 on the same road that the Amazon's on, and it's humongous. I mean, it's half a mile long probably. Yeah.
Well, I'll have to look into that and get back with you, but hopefully I can find an answer on that one before too long.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, sure thing. Thanks for the point in the call. Do appreciate it. All right, with that, we got to take that last break right now. So coming out of this break, we'll talk a little bit more about what we got coming up for you on the show, and of course, prepare for Friday. So stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this quick break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Stop and go traffic on the westbound I-10 right now between Hunter Viscount and the Patriot. It's a 13-minute delay. Two vehicles are blocking the left shoulder on I-10 eastbound at Dallas. An accident reported southbound Joe Battle at Edgemere. And an injury accident with police medical showing up North Loop Drive eastbound at Zaragoza. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Brake Masters.
Before your day is done, Brake Masters has already helped thousands of people get back to their families safely. Get your vehicle in Brake Masters shape. Download coupons at BrakeMasters.com. Only then can you say your day is done.
Brake Masters. We give you an honest break.
For my small bookstore to thrive, I can't just sell books. So I created a radio ad at iHeartAdBuilder.com to tell everyone about our author events, our story hours for kids, and our amazing lattes. Now we're busier than ever. I'd call that a success story.
A custom radio ad from iHeart Ad Builder is the fast, affordable way to drive customers to your business. Put the power of radio to work for you. Get started now at iHeartAdBuilder.com.
With people getting in shape for summer, I want to let them know my fitness center is more than treadmills and free weights. So I created a radio ad at iHeartAdBuilder.com to spread the word about our yoga and boot camp classes. Now, my business is as healthy as our members.
A custom radio ad from iHeart Ad Builder is the fast, affordable way to drive customers to your business. Put the power of radio to work for you. Get started now at iHeartAdBuilder.com.
Guys, this Valentine's Day, give her the next best thing to wearing nothing at all. Available exclusively at Pajamagram. Sexy, sultry, naturally nude pajamas feel just like her soft skin. Even more alluring than lingerie, the texture and touch of these pajamas is so seductive that you'll both love the feel of them. Leave nothing to the imagination with naturally nude pajamas. Go to pajamagram.com right now and save 25%. Pajamagram will even wrap the whole gift up for free. That's right, 25% off naturally nude pajamas and free gift packaging. Listen, if you missed out on this offer during Christmas, don't make the same mistake twice. But you need to order today because last year they sold out before Valentine's Day. Here's what you do. Go to pajamagram.com right now. That's pajamagram.com. Use code NUDE, N-U-D-E, and save 25% off your order of naturally nude pajamas. Order now.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for having joined us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I've been your host, Andrew J. Polk. Quick answer to that question that was posed by that previous caller about what's kind of south of I-10 on Nuevo Hueco Tanks Road. Looks like it's called the Socorro Logistics Center, and it might just be spec space, meaning it's space where stuff is ready to go in. But we'll have to talk more about that because we are super out of time for this show. So I want to thank everyone that did tune in, call in, comment, participate in the show. We'll do it again tomorrow, specifically Free for All Friday coming up for you. So tune in for that as we'll be taking your comments and calls throughout both hours of the show. But a couple things coming up for you, including the fact that we got the next election set here. May 6th is going to be, I think, a lot of local issues on the ballot, but there's a whole lot more we'll get into there. So I want to thank everyone that did tune in, call in, comment, participate in the show. Again, we'll do it again tomorrow, 4 to 6 p.m. as we do every Monday through Friday. So until then, until next time, stay safe out there. Look twice for motorcycles when out on the road, and have a great evening, y'all. We'll see you tomorrow.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Stop and go traffic on the westbound I-10 right now between Hunter Viscount and the Patriot. It's a 13-minute delay. Two vehicles are blocking the left shoulder on I-10 eastbound at Dallas. An accident reported southbound Joe Battle at Edgemere, and an injury accident with police medical showing up North Loop Drive eastbound at Zaragoza. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
Guys, this Valentine's Day, Give her the next best thing to wearing nothing at all. Available exclusively at Pajamagram. Sexy, sultry, naturally nude pajamas feel just like her soft skin. Even more alluring than lingerie, the texture and touch of these pajamas is so seductive that you'll both love the feel of them. Leave nothing to the imagination with naturally nude pajamas. Go to pajamagram.com right now and save 25%. Pajamagram will even wrap the whole gift up for free. That's right, 25% off naturally nude pajamas and free gift packaging. Listen, if you missed out on this offer during Christmas, don't make the same mistake twice. But you need to order today because last year they sold out before Valentine's Day. Here's what you do. Go to pajamagram.com right now. That's pajamagram.com. Use code NUDE, N-U-D-E, and save 25% off your order of naturally nude pajamas. Order now.
Portions of the following program were pre-recorded.
News on the hour and a half. Traffic and weather all day. News Radio 690 is KTSM AM El Paso, an iHeart radio station.
NBC News Radio, I'm Brian Shook. Former Vice President Mike Pence is being subpoenaed by the special counsel overseeing investigations into former President Trump. The subpoena comes from Jack Smith, who was appointed to oversee the investigation into Trump's potential mishandling of classified documents in November. The FBI says much of the evidence related to the Chinese spy balloon remains underwater. More from Lisa Taylor.
That's according to a Bureau official who gave an update about the balloon that was shot down last weekend. This comes as the House passed a resolution that calls on the Biden administration to continue to keep Congress briefed on the incident.
President Biden is vowing to protect Social Security and Medicare benefits.
Folks on fixed incomes relying on Social Security and Medicare to get by. They deserve a greater sense of security and dignity.
While speaking in Tampa, Florida, the president took jabs at Republicans he claims want to slash entitlements, naming Florida Senator Rick Scott. He has proposed a plan to sunset federal programs, meaning Congress would need to reauthorize them every 5 years. The family of Helena Hutchins is suing Alec Baldwin for her death on the set of Rust in New Mexico.
Anyone who is responsible for her loss must be held accountable.
Her parents and sister are being represented by celebrity attorney Gloria Allred. The lawsuit filed against Baldwin, producers of Rust, and others who may be responsible for her death alleges numerous things, including battery, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and negligence. Netflix will be rolling out new password sharing rules in different countries. The streaming giant announced Wednesday it's rolling out the rules in Canada, New Zealand, Portugal, and Spain. The account owner would need to set a primary location, but they will still be able to watch on their account when they travel. You're listening to the latest from NBC News Radio. Southwest Airlines says they have reimbursed the vast majority of passengers who were affected by a Christmas-time meltdown, which left many stranded,
including hotels, rental cars, meals, tickets on other airlines, and other necessary expenses like replacement car seats.
Chief Operating Officer Andrew Watterson apologized for canceling 16,000 flights around the holidays. He told Congress that the Texas-based carrier is working to fix the problems that led up to disaster, and they're taking full responsibility for the meltdown.
So why did this happen? Let me be clear. We messed up.
Winter weather stranded their crew members, and their outdated software made it impossible to catch up. A Minnesota congresswoman is recovering after being assaulted this morning in Washington, D.C. The chief of staff for Democrat Angie Craig said the assault occurred in the elevator of her apartment building. Craig has some bruises from what happened, and the suspect fled the scene as Craig defended herself and called 911. The statement noted there's no evidence of the assault being politically motivated. The Brooklyn Nets are dashing fans' dreams after making their second major trade of the week.
First, Kyrie Irving heads to the Dallas Mavericks, and now Kevin Durant is reportedly going to the Phoenix Suns.
How the owner allowed Kevin Durant to walk just like that?
They should have won already. They did nothing. They had the super team, did what? Zero.
Some Nets fans were hoping the star players would help create a dynasty, but it looks like they'll have to get through a rebuilding period.
What happened to a championship in Brooklyn?
The Nets traded Durant and TJ Warren for 3 players and 4 unprotected first-round picks. I'm Natalie Migliori.
A Spider-Man live-action series is in the works at Amazon Prime Video. Variety reports the untitled series will follow an older version of the superhero in the 1930s. Brian Shook, NBC News Radio.
Why do you buckle up when you get in your truck? Maybe you do it to get home safely to your loved ones, or because you take your job as a professional driver seriously, or because you want to follow the law to